Round one is in the books for majority of the state of Tennessee. Welcome into Friday Night Finals. I am Joe Hunk. Sounding amazing tonight because with weather going from 30 to 50 to 80 to 60, I, like you, most likely are having allergy issues. So welcome in. Thanks for joining us. Hope you can deal with my voice as well as all the unique sounds that are coming out of it for the next hour and a half. I've got my hot green tea here if you are sitting and watching on Zone TV, which you can on Facebook, Twitter, /X, Twitch, as well as YouTube. And the great thing about that is the F&M Bank chat is open as well, meaning that if you are sitting right now at a football game, which again, there's only maybe 10 football games still going on across the state of Tennessee. Tonight when we started, there was 109. There was only one game that happened yesterday afternoon or /evening, and the rest of the first round matchups are taking place tonight. And at the moment, if there's 10 happening across the state, I would actually be extremely surprised. So with that being said, we have a lot of our bracket currently filled out. I've got mine sitting right here. I've been filling it out as we've been going along. And the great thing is like, say, with 6A action that we just wrapped up with from Independence and Summit's game that we can already, or not Independence and Summit, I should say Independence and Smyrna. Summit is actually taking on Antioch tonight, and that game has just wrapped up as well. We'll have that final for you in just a little bit. We know majority of the 6A bracket. I believe there's only about 3 games left in 6A that are actually still live at the moment, and we'll get those for you as we go throughout the evening. But our game that we had here on 104.5 The Zone was Smyrna and Independence. Final score of this one was 26-14. But this thing, as much as it was really on one side as far as it was a Smyrna's game for majority of it, Independence had some opportunities to come back in this one and try to win the game. Here's how Smyrna did it. In fact, look, Smyrna did this in the very first play of the game as we get ready for your highlights tonight here on 104.5 The Zone and Friday Night Finals. As in, it was happening, the coin was flipped, and then the opening kickoff happened. Independence started the game with the football, or they were supposed to.
In the air, end over end, and it will be returnable from the 20-yard line from right to left. Up to the 20-yard line, a spin move fumble. There, and the ball comes out late. Wow. Claims for fumble, Smyrna pouncing on it. What's the signal? It's Smyrna football.
Smyrna gets a football, but doesn't get into the end zone because Independence played amazing on defense in that first series, especially for a defense that wasn't expecting to actually go out on the field before their offense. And in doing so, made it where Smyrna had to actually go for 3 instead of 6.
Who is more the distance kicker is going to try a field goal from 28 yards away. Snap down. Kick is up. Got it.
If you haven't heard of B-Hop analyst work in high school football, get ready because this man is amazing if you missed him last week and this week. But Smyrna up 3-0 in the ball game. Independence gets the football back. They have to punt it back to Smyrna. And then once again, Smyrna, instead of going for 3 this time, they do get 6.
Claps his hands together, takes the shotgun snap, fires right, caught at the 5, and dancing his way into the end zone, Tyreek McCarver.
McCarver makes it 9-0 because the extra point was actually missed in this one. That's why it's not 10-0. But here we go again. Ball now. That's the end of the first quarter going into the second quarter. Smyrna once again has the football, and this time, instead of handing it off to McCarver, Austin Morris keeps it himself.
Shotgun snap. They fake the give. This time he does keep it. Austin Morris up the middle, fighting for the end zone, and he is in. Austin Morris makes it 16-0 in this one, and I'm telling you, that was what we thought was going to be the last of the scoring in this football game because goes into halftime. We go through the entire third quarter, no action whatsoever, no points being put up on the board. And then started the fourth quarter, Smyrna has the football one more time, unable to get into the end zone. And this time they call on Oliver Martinez from 32 yards out.
Michael Robinson's hold is down. Kick is up. Plenty of leg. It's good.
And that would make it 19-0. And in doing so, again, we're now in the fourth quarter. We think that Smyrna is going to be just killing the clock, which they were basically doing. Independence tried multiple times to get down the field, and instead of not turning the football over, and instead of punting it like they had been doing majority of the night, Independence started their drive on their own 10-yard line. And in doing so, instead of having to punt it or instead of turning it over on downs, this happened.
They fake it to him as McNeely is immediately under pressure, fires back in the end zone, touchdown. Independence is on the board.
And unfortunately misses the extra point in that one, so now it's 19-6. It's a 13-point ball game. Independence stops Smyrna again, and in doing so, then they get the opportunity. On the drive, they're trying to make it a one-score game, but Michael Robinson says no, sir.
Takes the waist-high snap, floats towards the near sideline. It's intercepted. Yep. Intercepted by Michael Robinson, who's got green grass in front of him. 15-10, juke move at the 1.
That's a touchdown.
Still no signal. He's in. Touchdown, Bulldogs.
26-6 is where we are at in this one. That drive, unfortunately, for Independence actually started because Independence blocked the field goal to get the ball back. Then basically this one's over, at least we think so, but it's not over for Luke McNeely.
Taking the waist-high snap, has time, now steps up, turns into a runner, and has space, shimmying by a tackler at the 35, stiff arm at the 30, still on his feet, down the near sideline, 20, McNeely cutting upfield to the 15, to the 10, to the 5, touchdown.
2-point conversion is good, and 26-14 is your final. Independence actually got the football back, had an opportunity to try to make it a one-score game, but unfortunately they did not get that, and Smyrna moves on, and they're going to be taking on Ravenwood next week. That being said, since we're talking about a little 6A football, how about we go ahead and get into some of these scores and we kind of focus on the 6A action right now as you are getting your calls and scores in at 615-737-1045. Let's go ahead and hit that music. And yes, we just mentioned it. Smyrna wins tonight 26-14, and they will be taking on Ravenwood, who just defeated Stewart's Creek 28-14. At one point in time, Cane Ridge 2-8 going into the game tonight in the first round of the playoffs, was up 7-0 on Brentwood. Brentwood then scores 28 straight points to win 28-7. They will be taking on Summit next week because Summit tonight beat Antioch 38-29. Dixon County and Houston went at it tonight. Houston won 47-0, and that means that Houston will be taking on Clarksville coming up next week, because at the moment Clarksville is leading. We believe that game is close to final if it is not already, and we will have that for you when we eventually do so. Now, other games happening 6A around the state of Tennessee. Jefferson County picked up a 44-36 win over Cleveland tonight. Bearden won tonight 27-0. Maryville won 42-16. They are going to be taking on Bradley Central next week. Bradley Central, undefeated, just beat West Ridge 42-0. Riverdale, coming off that big win against Oakland last week, beat Green Hill tonight 50-13. And Cookeville advances after beating Siegel 35-14. Riverdale and Cookeville will meet each other in the second round. Gallatin and Oakland play tonight, and Oakland wins that one 38-3. They will be taking on the winner of Mount Juliet and Rockville, who Mount Juliet wins a close one 23-19 tonight, as Mount Juliet will be hosting Oakland next week. Throughout the rest of the night tonight, we're going to be giving you scores from 1 through 6A. We're going to be obviously giving you scores from all the private schools as well. There's a lot of teams private school-wise, because of the way their bracket works out, that they actually have a bye this week. So we'll keep you up to date on which teams have byes and which ways you're going to be going with whenever we're talking about second round action. The F&M Bank chat is open to you right now. We just mentioned that. Zach letting us know that East Robertson beat Cascade tonight 40-0, and Hendersonville went over to Memphis and took out Mumford 41-34. If you've got a score, you can get in. Reed's over there taking your phone calls at 615-737-1045. We've got Sammy Kincaid coming up here in just a little bit. She is out at the MyTV 30 game, which is Centennial and Columbia. At the moment, Centennial's got a 21-15 lead over Columbia for the longest time. This game was actually 7-6. Then it's been back and forth until Centennial just took the lead a few moments ago. When we come back, we'll have more scores for you. Look at some 5A action, get you up to date on that bracket as well. Tate Matthews is going to be joining us from CPA and talking about the CPA game that happened and wrapped up tonight as well. We have plenty of action that you can be paying attention to throughout the evening tonight here on 104.5 The Zone. Don't forget, not only can you get on the phone lines at 615-737-1045. You can also hop in that F&M Bank chat on Zone TV. Get your scores in there just the way Steven and Zach did, and we'll have those for you throughout the rest of the night. We've got an hour and 15 minutes recapping the first round of the TSSAA State Playoffs. This is Friday Night Finals right here on 104.5 The Zone. Continuing on Friday Night Finals, Joe Hunk in with you until 11 o'clock tonight As you are leaving some high school football action, 109 high school football games happening tonight throughout the state of Tennessee. 110 first-round matchups. Coming up in just a minute, we're going to be talking to Tate Matthews here in just a little bit. In fact, CPA picking up that 42-6 victory. We'll be talking to him about that. But I don't know. I know that I do the Strike Zone every Thursday night during baseball season, and I talk a lot about baseball, obviously, with a majority of it being about not just Nashville, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, but also about Major League Baseball with Atlanta Braves, try to throw in some Cincinnati Reds and Milwaukee Brewers, depending on how well that they are playing. But with a lot of Braves fans being here in Middle Tennessee, we've talked a lot about the Braves, and all season long we continue to talk about how amazing the offense was. How it was the best offense in baseball. They were breaking all sorts of records. How fantastic the pitching staff was and the defense, and they had all these things that were just every record the Braves were just breaking. 2023. Check it off the list. And Clarksville has kind of been on the exact same path in that one. As every single game we talked about how Clarksville was blowing teams out. In fact, last week they played Northeast and they won 58-0. They beat Kirkwood 62-6. They beat Northwest 55-0. West Creek 48-7. Like, you kind of see what I'm going with on this, and how well not just the offense was playing, but the defense was playing as well. And so we were talking just a second ago, giving updates about, the matchups that could be taking place 6A-wise, because even though we have the Houston-Dixon County final with Houston winning 47-0, we didn't have the Clarksville-Collierville final. Well, I just got a tweet. They're still called tweets, even though it's on X. I just got a tweet just a few seconds ago, because with the way Clarksville's been playing all year, we thought, all right, Clarksville was up 22-10. That's going to be the final. That is actually not the case. In fact, Clarksville, arguably one of the best offenses in the state of Tennessee this football season, just lost tonight to Collierville in the first round, 23-22, as Collierville scored with 39 seconds to go in the ballgame. I appreciate Mr. Two-Tone Blue that's been keeping us updated all season long about Clarksville, and that one is extremely surprising to see Clarksville losing that one. Not that Collierville wasn't a very good football team, because they came into this ballgame with only 3 losses, 7-3, but they just lost last week to Houston, and now they're going in and getting a rematch coming up here in the next 7 days. But this man joins us right now, Tate Matthews. You'll be hearing tomorrow morning, and you hear every single Saturday morning here on 104.5 The Zone. He was out at CPA tonight. Tate, I appreciate you hopping in with us, talking about this ball game, sir. How did CPA do in that ball game?
They look good, man. They came out and no slow start. They came out and took care of business early. They were able to get the running clock in the second half, and they got to play a lot of young people. So Braden Streeter, QB1, played lights out in the first half. He was 8 for 9. 150-plus yards, 3 touchdown passes, came out second offensive play of the game, hit Owen Cabell for about a 45-yard touchdown, came back, hit Trey Harris for a touchdown, about a 30-yarder on the second possession, and then later on in the half, Jackson Matthews hit him down the sideline for a touchdown, and then we had 2 rushing touchdowns in the first half. Preston Patterson, one half of the Patterson twins, the other half from Rawls, had a nice touchdown out of the line package. And then the play of the game, our man senior Cooper, don't call me Snoop Dogg, Waller, came in the line package as well and got him his first rushing touchdown of the game. Man, you can always tell how loved a player is by the way his teammates react. And when Cooper got that touchdown in, man, he's a senior. He's just a great kid, the ultimate teammate. And I don't think I've seen a celebration out of the team like that all year long. So it was really neat, man. It was a good night. It was a good night for the Lions for sure. And then later on in the third quarter fourth quarter, another senior, Bryant Moore, got his first touchdown from the quarterback position. He's moved to offensive line, so he wears number 50 now, Hunk.
Wow.
But he took it in, completed a couple of passes wearing number 50, and then he also took a rushing touchdown in. So very cool. It was a good night for the Lions.
All right, now I need to be honest. I'm just curious. It's my ADHD getting in. Do you need to get that phone call? Like, is that something important you need to get? Because they've called like 3 times.
No, it's my son. He's calling my wife. He's no, when we call him, he doesn't pick up. But if we don't pick up, he just keeps calling back. So you got that to look forward to in about 15, 16 years.
Oh, trust me. I feel it. My son every single day, if he says, "Hey, Dad," and I say, "Hold on a second," he waits like 2 seconds and he yells, "Dad," again. So is that like the teenage equivalent of that? If you say you don't pick up, he's just going to call right back?
Yeah, man, he just keeps on calling. Like Summertown head football coach Dan Winfrey say, he thinks he's really something.
Well, I mean, after a ball game like that and 42-6 win.
Update. He needed some money put on his green light. That's what.
Because he needs something for dinner tonight, right?
That's right.
Man, you are not making it where I'm going to be looking forward to what my son's going to be doing here in the next 12 years. I'm just going to let you know this is not really helping me out much. But let me ask you about helping your own self out when it comes to a team that wins 42-6. How big is this for a lot of these teams? Because we were talking before you came on, a lot of blowouts, a lot of running clocks, a lot of games that were not even close by halftime. I know that it sucks, obviously, for the teams that the seasons are ending, but when you talk about these teams now that are going into the second round and they've had basically an entire half where they didn't have to play their starters, how important is that going into the rest of this tournament?
Yeah, I think it's real important. I know, CPA had a few teams that they had they needed them tonight, no disrespect, but had they needed them tonight, they could have played, but they didn't. And so it's just another week to get healthy and get ready for these tougher games down the road. But that's the world we live in. We have 9 classifications, so you're going to have more than quite a few uneven first round games. That's just the way it is. But there are also some great games too. So that's what makes it fun.
No, absolutely. Like right before you came on, we were talking about how Clarksville, like we were already expecting them to go into the tournament, quarterfinals, semifinals, maybe even heading to Chattanooga, and they get upset in the first round. And this was a team that was putting up 50 and 60 points regularly throughout the entire season and barely even giving up 10, and they just got upset tonight.
That's right. That's a tough region over there. It's always scary when you match up against those guys, and so I think they maybe knew that was going to be a tough game. But yeah, you're right. You go 10-0, and then it's bittersweet. You're happy for Collierville, but you hate that for Clarksville. So you have some of those, and then like you have some blowouts. But a lot of times it's all how those regions match up, kind of like the Region 6A down here with Ravenwood and Brentwood and Summit and Independence. They go 3-1. Smyrna gets the win over Independence, but sometimes it's just who you match up region-wise.
Well, no, and so that was my question. You mentioned it. I know that you're obviously trying to be respectful, but from a head coaching standpoint, you were talking about if there were some guys that they were keeping out. How does a coach go in through that week saying, okay, you guys are in a case of an emergency, we need you, you're good to go, but we're going to hold back on that? How does that conversation take place where you start making those decisions?
I think like what you just said. Hey, man, I know you don't like it, but this is what's best for the team, and we already know what you can do. We held out Andre Evans tonight. I think the Coach Ryan Taylor has a pretty good idea, and the cornerbacks coach at CPA, Coach Matthews, I think they got a pretty good idea of what Andre can do, right? So obviously Andre wanted to be out there. He's a heck of a competitor, but our goal is to be playing the last week of the season and what gives us the best chances to make sure you're healthy. So, and I'm sure he took it the right way because he's a good teammate, and that's just how you have the conversation, right? Like anything else in life, just hit it head on, right?
No, absolutely. And, like with you got, it's almost 10 o'clock now, coming up in about, 10 hours from right now. You're going to be on the air talking about a lot of these high school matchups. What should we be looking forward to tonight or tomorrow morning, I should say, from the show?
Yeah, man, we'll have the scores and top performers of the week in the news segment. And Coach Matt Williams of Smyrna will be joining us. Always enjoy having him on. Brian Coleman of Summit will be joining us. And then Tom Krager of the Tennessean will back cleanup. So talking the first round of the playoffs, man, very exciting.
Well, CPA back at home next week against USJ, who took out Lakeway Christian tonight, 34-21. Good luck to CPA next week and tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., man. We'll be listening.
Thank you, Hunk. Have
All
a
right.
great rest of the show. Doing a good job, buddy.
Hey, thank you very much, and I hope you get that money on your son's Greenway card or whatever. What did you say it was? It was a green card?
Green light.
Green light. I knew it had something green, and I know I've seen it. Just saying a green card sounded weird, but still I went with it. Totally wrong on that, but there you go. Yeah, he needs that money.
That's right. They're actually pretty cool. I'm going to try to get my wife to get me a green light card, and I can just ask her for it. So
can you put some money
man,
on
check
my
it
card?
out. It's not all bad, brother.
All right, man. Thank you so much, sir. We'll be seeing you and listening to you tomorrow morning, all right?
Yep.
All right,
Thanks,
see you.
Have a good night.
You too, sir. Tate Matthews got to get his son on the green light card. I've never heard of it. I think that's one of those cards where, seriously, like your parents put the money on it. That's the only money that you have. It's almost like it's like a bank account card just for the kids. From what I'm going and again, you win 42-6. You kind of want to go out, have yourself dinner, and have a little bit of fun. So Tate Matthews with us there. The game between Centennial and Columbia just wrapped up. Sammy Kincaid wrapping up her on-field duties. Lucas Panzica was on the call on that for MyTV30 as well. Sammy's going to be joining us here in just a little bit to recap that game between Centennial and Columbia. When we come back, we'll get you some more scores. We'll be looking at 5A action in those games. Who's going to be playing who next week, as almost every single game throughout the state of Tennessee has wrapped up. We'll have that for you as Friday Night Finals continues on 104.5 The Zone. Heading into that 10 o'clock hour here on 104.5 The Zone, Friday night finals. I am Joe Hunk. May not sound like it, but I am. As just like you, most likely, allergies getting the best of me, just like it is you. Coming up here in just a few minutes, I'm going to go get some more hot green tea. I was telling Reed during the break just a second ago, we've got a coffee maker that, just like you have in your office, where a lot of times you just have the coffee maker, but then you also just have the hot water dispenser. I'm thinking about going and just pouring hot water, like directly in a cup and just like taking it like a shot, just going ahead and just trying to chug that thing, because that is the only thing that makes my voice sound any better whatsoever. But anyways, now that's been said, I appreciate you hopping in tonight on Friday Night Finals. If you're leaving a game, which majority of those games, as a matter of fact, I want to say almost every single football game inside the state of Tennessee is over with right now. We're still waiting on a few scores. Like, we're still waiting on a final from Stratford and White House Heritage, because the last update that we got from that one, Stratford was up 34-28. But with that being said, a lot of these brackets already filled out. We know who's going where next week. We know who's going to be hosting next week. We know a lot of this information for you as we continue throughout the evening. Sammy Kincaid's going to be joining us here in just a little bit, because the MyTV 30 game just wrapped up between Centennial and Columbia. So we appreciate everybody that's leaving that game and turning on 104.5 The Zone. But I told you before the break that we're going to be getting to some of these scores. In fact, you can get in on the F&M Bank chat, because Zone TV is live as well. Get us those scores, just like we have with Jim, that let us know that Pearl Cone won tonight 42-2. Didn't have that score on my bingo card. 42-2, the final between Pearl Cone and Lexington. And we'll have that update as far as that bracket is concerned here in just a little bit as well. But as Reed is taking your phone calls, I'm also going to ask him to multitask and hit that music. And let's go ahead and let's look at the 5A matchups that we have, because that bracket is ready to go. Let's start here locally as Beach finish off Overton out of Memphis tonight, 42-8. And they're going to be taking on the winner of Springfield and Southwind. That means that Beach is going to be traveling to Southwind tonight out of Region 8, with Southwind winning 62-0. Hendersonville went over to Mumford tonight and picked up a 41-34 victory. They take on the winner of Henry County and Memphis Central, meaning they're going to be taking on 9-1 now, 10-1 Henry County at Henry County coming up next Friday night. Page and Franklin County wrapped up a little while ago. Page with that 50-14 win, and they will be taking on Nolensville's winner between them and Tullahoma, which was Tullahoma, as they won tonight 10-0 at the half. We had a score of 0-0. I didn't know if that had actually been the score at half, or if somebody just hadn't updated the score for us. And so when we saw that, now we know Tullahoma won 10-0, defeating Nolensville, and now they will be heading to take on Page next Friday night. We'll talk about Centennial and Columbia here in just a moment when Sammy Kincaid calls in, but the winner of that game is going to be taking on the winner of Shelbyville and Hillsborough, and that winner tonight was Shelbyville. And in fact, Shelbyville is going to be hosting that game next week, because Centennial beats Columbia 27-15 to advance. Now, looking at some games outside of the kind of the listening area, Walker Valley tonight took on Campbell County. This is actually the score. I'm not making this up. Final score in this one: Campbell County 33, Walker Valley 74. That is the final. 107 points scored in that ball game. Walker Valley advancing, and they will be taking on Lenoir City, because Lenoir City won tonight 31-13. McMinn County tonight lost to Clinton 34-10, and Oak Ridge defeated East Hamilton tonight. That score 49-22. Oak Ridge will host Clinton next week, and Knoxville West defeated Daniel Boone 34-0, with will be taking on Morristown West next week because Morristown West defeated Knoxville Halls 35-14. Powell advanced after beating Tennessee High tonight 42-14, and they will be facing a Sevier County team that won 51-20 over Knoxville Central. You also had 4A action going in. We've given you the update for 6A. We've given you the update for 5A. Greenville tonight, this actually may have been the very first game that wrapped up tonight. They won 48-14 and will be taking on Gibbs, who had a difficult ball game. In fact, they won tonight in overtime over Northview Academy 28-27. You had Elizabethton winning 38-0 over Carter tonight, and they will be taking on Anderson County, who had an easy one against Sullivan East 49-0. Red Bank advances to the second round, and they will be taking on Macon County tonight as Macon County won 41-7. They're not taking them on tonight. That would mean that both teams were extremely tired and it would not be very safe. They will be taking them on next week in that ball game coming up on November 10th. Stone Memorial is advancing tonight. They win 34-14 over Hickson, and Upperman gets an easy win against East Ridge tonight, 56-14. Stone Memorial will be traveling to Upperman next week for that second round matchup. We just mentioned it in the F&M Bank chat that Pearl Cone won tonight 42-2. And they will be hosting Station Camp next week, who beat South Gibson 24-20 tonight in that matchup. You also had Marshall County winning tonight 52-18 over Jackson Northside. They will be going to Hardin County next week as Hardin County defeated White House 29-22. Haywood won tonight 44-0 over Kirby, and you had Millington defeating Crockett County 38-34, and Haywood is going to be hosting Millington next week. Wrapping up your 4A bracket, Craigmont lost tonight to Dyer County 40-6, and you had Milrose advancing after they won tonight 49-6 with Milrose hosting Dyer County tomorrow. So that's 6A bracket, the 5A bracket, as well as 4A action. As we continue here on Friday Night Finals, we're going to continue giving you more scores. Barnyard hops in as he is watching on YouTube tonight, and he's letting us know that Liberty Creek took out Sycamore 42-0 in their ball game. We'll get you the update on those brackets as we continue. If you do have a score that we may not have, because again, a lot of these games are wrapping up, but we don't have all of the finals in as of right now, you can give us a call at 615-737-1045. The F&M Bank chat is wide open. You can also listen on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, X, same thing as Twitter, but we got to say both now because that's what everybody calls it. They call it both, and we haven't figured out which way to go. But all those ways that you can watch, you can listen, you can participate, you can get us scores, you can talk about a lot of games. In fact, Zach was reacting to the fact that Clarksville lost tonight to Collierville 23-22, and he was extremely shocked, just like a lot of us were, that Clarksville, who'd been putting up 50 and 60 points a game, did not win. Now, when we come back, we'll continue getting your scores. We still have a few people, some of our correspondents, that's going to call in and talk about their victories tonight as well, as we're going till 11 o'clock tonight as we continue here on Friday Night Finals. This is 104.5 The Zone. 44 minutes remaining in Friday night finals here on 104.5 The Zone. I am Joe Hunk with you up until 11 o'clock. You can get on the F&M Bank chat on Zone TV. I appreciate all the kind words from people that have been on X/Twitter just the past few minutes talking about the high school action and the high school coverage that we have as Will Bowling and B-Hop wrapped up our game tonight between Independence and Smyrna. We also have Sammy Kincaid. She's going to be joining us here in just a little bit as well. Her and Lucas Panzica were on the My TV 30 game. Tate Matthews joined us a little while ago talking about CPA's victory and how they're going to be hosting USJ next week. But another guy, look, I love that we've kind of started some traditions here on 104.5 and Friday Night Finals. And the gentleman's joining us right now has a son that plays for Cornersville. His son is nicknamed Little Derrick Henry. In fact, Derrick Henry could be listening right now, and he was asked about that just a few days ago. And Ben Franklin is the running back that we're talking about. His dad joins us right now. Mr. Franklin, I appreciate you calling into us again tonight. I looked it up before you hopped in. Not the way I'm sure your son wanted the season to end tonight.
No, it's not the way we wanted it to end. Of course, we didn't get the win. Props to McKenzie. Got a really good ball team, really classy ball team. They played hard. It was hard fought. We was in the game. We only lost. We were 31-14 was the final score. It was 21-14 at halftime. We had the momentum going in. Of course, McKenzie came out, man, and played good ball. But Ben still had an excellent performance tonight. It was his last game as a high school player. He put up 150 yards on like 15 carries. He had 14 tackles.
God. Hey, man, I'm telling you, your son's a beast. I mean, he just is. Like, you know this. Like, I mean, seriously, like, we've talked about this over the past couple of weeks. Like, you know this. But the other thing that I learned about your son last week before you came on is he's committed to Navy, right?
Yes, he's committed to Navy.
So
yeah.
How does that work? Like, again, you know, as a father, he's you know, committed to the Naval Academy. Like, how did that come about for him? Because coming up in a few weeks, 3HL is going to be heading up to New England for the Army-Navy game, which means this is something you're going to be paying attention to as well as for the next couple of years. So, like, what was in that for him to say, I want to go to the Naval Academy and I want to play football there?
Well, okay, so my daddy, which is his granddaddy, is an Army he retired from the Army. He's passed away. He left a really big impression on me. He wanted me to play, wanted me to go to the Army, but I ended up playing college ball. I went to FSU. I chose the other route. But when Navy did reach out to Ben, and we actually got to go up there to Annapolis and see what it was all about, we already knew just then, man, this is the place for Ben. This is where leaders go. This is where the leaders of the free world go, okay?
Right.
Not just for sports, but just for everything, you know?
Well, no, and okay, so I'm new to this whole thing when it comes to the committing to play college football in there is right. So with committing to play college there, that means he enlists, correct? Mr. Franklin, you there, sir?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so no, sorry, just double check. I didn't know if you heard me or not because I think your phone broke up for a second. But him going to the Naval Academy also means that he enlists, correct?
Yes, he does. I think
It's a
in
monster.
2 years you have the option, you know, if you can opt out. But he's gonna go. He's gonna enlist, man. So he's in it for the long haul. He's gonna make a career out of it. Cyber security is gonna be his field
Smart.
of study, and the Navy has everything he needs for that field.
Oh, now that's where my next question came, because for a lot of people they don't realize this, that if you're at the Naval Academy, you can either be going to Navy or you could be a Marine. So has he chosen going to Navy?
Yes, he chose to go to the Navy. Of course, he wants to play football, so it's everything that he wants all wrapped up in one. And it's a prestigious place. So my daddy will be proud if he can see
That's awesome.
that Ben is going to the Navy. Ben's already got a brother that's in the Army right now. He's in Belgium. So we're kind of a military family, if you may.
No, I absolutely. I grew up around military families myself. I've worked for My very first boss I ever worked for was Army. I actually had a friend down in Montgomery that was was a paratrooper for the Army as well. I will be straight with you, just because we're talking about military. I would have become a Marine if I would have been able to be a pilot for a jet, but I was only going to be. They would only let me be a co-pilot because I'd had LASIK surgery, and you have to have perfect 20/20 vision. And I was like, nope, not being a co-pilot, man. If I'm not flying it, I don't want somebody else controlling me up there. So
I hear you, man. Yeah, like that, the opportunities are there, and like I said, once they revealed the amount of jobs you can actually get from going to Naval Academy, man, it was overwhelming. I was like, oh my goodness, this is. Nobody else is offering this, and as you know, for a high school kid, man, with the transfer portal and all, it's really hard to get a good look from anybody because everybody's worried about the portal now.
Absolutely,
the high school guys are not getting the chances that he used to get. So this is a very tremendous opportunity for Ben, and like I said, we're really proud of him. And as a matter of fact, we're going up there next weekend for the UAB game.
Oh, are you? That's awesome.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, look, Mr. Franklin, sir, I appreciate it. I appreciate everything that you did as well, and with your son going into the Naval Academy, and next year, every single year, 3HL goes for Army Navy. So now we have. Again, I'm always a Navy guy, just because I was about to enlist to the Marines if they're going to let me fly. So I'm always going to be a Navy guy. But I will be paying attention, man, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to be hard to figure out which player on the field is your son.
Right. That's what's up, man. And thanks for talking to me, man, about Ben. And like I said, we're really proud of him. We didn't get the win that we wanted to, but he played really hard, and we're really proud of him.
Well, we're extremely proud of him, and I know he hasn't started yet, but we're going to thank him for his service as well. Thank you, your dad, for his service, and everybody in your family that's military. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you just seriously over the past 3 weeks just calling in, even though you had no clue what you were doing when you called. You're like, what's the worst that could happen?
Actually, Joe, this is like my first time ever talking on the radio.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious.
Well, see, it's not that bad, man. Like, we just sit here and talk BS. Like, it's no big deal.
It's great, man. It's awesome, man. Yeah.
Well, look, again, thank you so much for doing it, man. I know you had a buddy that told you, hey, they're talking about your son on the radio a couple weeks ago, and he called it, and you called in. So thank you so much, and opening up to us about your son. And again, it's going to be awesome to see him in the Naval Academy and going up to Annapolis, man. And enjoy y'all's trip up there next week.
All right, man. Thanks for having me on, man.
Hey, no problem at all. Have a great one, sir. That is Ben Franklin's father. You know, the sad thing is, I don't think through the last 3 weeks that we've had him on that I've ever figured out his name. I think seriously we've just been calling him Ben Franklin's daughter or the father the entire time, as Reed is shaking his head yes on this one. Now we go from that, and Reed just talked to me in my ear. He's never said his name. He just says, hey, it's Ben Franklin's father. So going from that, let's head out as Sammy Kincaid is wrapping up her MyTV 30 duties that she had tonight, as her and Lucas Panzica were on the call for Centennial and Columbia in that one. And Sammy, you had yourself a nice little entertaining football game tonight.
Wow, we were not expecting what went down in that fourth quarter to happen. If you were watching the first 3 quarters of that game, it was an absolute slugfest, just physical game. And I was actually listening in on the Centennial sideline whenever they were talking to the defense, and they said, this is not anything that we've seen this season. It's something different that Columbia Central was a different look that they were giving them that they haven't gone up against. But they said, you know what, this isn't the first time, though, that we've been in this position. We've been in this position 4 or 5 times. We just have to stick to what we know how to play, and they ended up doing that in the fourth quarter, and it was a complete shootout. We were over halfway through the third quarter, and neither team even had a first down at that point. So the fact that they couldn't get anything going offensively really in that third quarter, and then the fourth quarter to just turn it on the way they did. And Dominic Reed, he was just absolutely phenomenal for Centennial tonight, 4 touchdowns. He is a Mr. Football semifinalist, and he didn't even play an offensive snap in 3 games this season. That's just insane that he now has 30 touchdowns on the season. He's a really special player.
Well, no, and Dominic Reed, I'm glad you brought him up because I know during the broadcast you guys showed the list of Mr. Footballs and his name is on it, and that's the reason why you guys did it. Like you've seen him play throughout the season. You talked about how he didn't even play in 3 of these football games, but like what has Coach said about his impact when he does step on the football field because of what he can do for the offense?
Yeah, that's the player that Coach and I talked about early on in the week. And then if you were watching the broadcast, it's who I talked to him after the game. Dominic was the player of the game. And Coach, whenever I was saying, hey, this was a slugfest and then it was a shootout, what can you say about the resiliency of this team? And he was talking about how the team in general plays for the name on the front of their jersey and not the back of their jersey. And that's exactly what he says Reed does every single day. The whole reason he didn't play an offensive snap in 3 of those games is because even though he knew he was going to be a finalist for Mr. Football, he told Coach Stewart that, hey, you know what? I get a lot of attention because of this, but my teammates also need to get some looks at them as well. Can you get them the ball as well so they can also get some glory? And so for him to know that Mr. Football is based off of stats and still take the back seat so his teammates can get some attention as well. You don't really hear that about a high school kid taking that kind of approach, and Coach just raved about him and who he is on and off the field and just the kind of leader he is, and he had only great things to say about him.
All right, now the other thing I got to ask you about, because we saw it on TV, did you see the clothesline that took place? I'm just curious.
I did not see the clothesline from where I was, but there were some really hard hits. Knife Johnson, he's one that did not come back into the game. He ended up walking off the field and leaving the game early. He took a couple really big hits, and on both sides you had players getting checked for concussion protocol. It was the most physical game I think I've seen in a very long time.
All right, so I'm gonna take you back to a point in the game because in the game, Columbia has the football. They're traveling left to right on your television. And in doing so, the quarterback throws a lob to the right side of the field, which was the Centennial side of the field, and there's an interception. Do you remember the interception there towards the end of the game?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
That was a big moment for Centennial.
Right. So what happens is the defender gets the football. He catches it, steps out of bounds, and he tries to run around the team and to get back on the field. The problem is one of his teammates was celebrating, and he went to throw his arms up in celebration, and instead, when he did so, I mean, it was a perfect clothesline. I mean, he just took his own guy out. And right when he did it, he just like went down to the ground like, oh God, what did I just do? Like, I'm not in the game. I don't know if it was like a freshman. I'm just going to imagine that it was because he was kind of towards the very back he wasn't close to the field, which is kind of what freshmen do. They know they're not getting in the field, so they just kind of stand by the bleachers. And so I'm looking at him. He's going, I'm a freshman. I just injured our cornerback that just made this interception. I'm literally getting kicked off the team after this. Like, that's everything that I think went through his mind there. But I'm just going to say,
absolutely.
Yeah, go back, watch that play, and then watch the camera work. Fantastic camera work there on that. Now, you do this, and obviously we talk to you about this every single week. I know that you guys didn't really know where you were going to be going next week because it's round 2 of the playoffs. Do you know anything about next week, or how's this working?
Yeah, I don't know yet. And actually, those that choose the game were here tonight, and they were getting score updates, really keeping track of who was beating who, and it was a little shocking. We were trying to keep up on all the different sites that you can keep up with the scores, and I'm really curious to see where we go because there were a couple games that were pretty close that you weren't really necessarily expecting to be close. But so I'm very curious to hear, but we have not heard yet where we will be.
Well, and the only reason I say this is just because of what the matchup's going to be. I'm sure, we're going through the bracket as we're talking right now, but the game you just covered, Centennial, they're advancing tonight, and they're taking on Shelbyville. Shelbyville's now 10-1. Centennial is now 9-2. I mean, that's a pretty good second-round matchup. I'm not saying that you're going to want to, but you could head to Shelbyville next week if you'd like.
Yeah, I know they try to switch it up, especially in the playoffs, so we get different teams and maybe teams we didn't see in the regular season. I know that was a big factor in choosing tonight's game, and I'm glad that they did because this was definitely one heck of a game to be broadcasting for sure.
No, absolutely. So we appreciate that. We know that you also, just like Tate Matthews, because Tate comes on tomorrow at 8 before we swap over to Vol football coverage, but before him, You're on the air, so that means that you have got a nice little, looking at the clock right now, 8.5 hours until you're going to be
Yes.
good to go. So what do we have coming up tomorrow morning for you at 7 o'clock?
Yeah, but not much time in between now and then. But Power Hour with Sammy Kincaid is on every single Saturday from 7 to 8 a.m., highlighting women in sports. Tomorrow I'm going to have on Channel 4's Lauren Walsh. She's new to town, so I've been really excited to have her sit down with me, and I can't wait to talk to her about her career path, how she made her way to Nashville. And we'll also talk some Nashville SC, which is something that I don't normally do on the show. Normally I'm very college football heavy, but we'll talk some balls, obviously, and we'll talk some Nashville SC as well.
I'm not going to lie. I've been sitting here as you've been talking about it. I'm still trying to find what game that you guys could go to. I'm just going to be straight with you. I really kind of am. I'm just kind of curious.
If you figure it out, please let me know, because we didn't even find out till Tuesday this week. So I know it was a really tough choice to figure out this one, and there's so many good games across the mid-state. So I know that they'll end up picking another great one. But
I've got it. I've got it. I've already got it. Sammy, just going ahead and letting you know. I'm calling it right now. FRA and Knoxville Webb.
Ooh, that's going to be a really good one.
10-1.
That will be good.
Two 10-1 teams. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Like, let's just go ahead and say we're going to make that one happen. Okay. Not saying it will.
I covered high school football I covered it in Knoxville. Knox Webb is a team that has been dominant for a long time.
Okay. All right. So we got that figured out. Just let your people know at my TV 30 that I picked that one for you guys. So I hope you enjoy it. And also here in about 8.5 hours, I hope you have a fantastic power hour before Tate Matthews.
Thank you so much, Hunk.
Have a good one, ma'am. As Sammy Kincaid wrapping up that My TV 30 game. Centennial takes out Columbia in that one. I mean, does that not make sense? Two 10-1 football teams playing each other, FRA. Like, I mean, I'm just saying the game is right down the road from our studios right now. I literally pass it every single day when I go home. I'm just looking at it that way, thinking, hey, this may actually be a really good matchup. So, boom, there you go. Everybody at My TV 30, you can just let me just thank me later, and that's all I'm asking for. Now, if they really actually do that, I'm going to be kind of surprised and in awe in that. But what's crazy is the game that we had tonight between Smyrna and Independence. We got a question on our F&M Bank chat talking about the final score between Smyrna and Independence. The final score of that one was 26-14. The reason why that I bring that up is because now that Smyrna has advanced, they are going to be taking on Ravenwood, who had a 28-14 victory tonight over Stewart's Creek. We talked about traditions with Ben Franklin's father. Literally, that is his name now. Like, if he tells me his name, I don't think I'm ever going to say it. We also have a tradition that we've been having throughout the football season as well, as the play-by-play voice of Ravenwood calls in and talks to us every single week after games, before the week before their next football game with Ravenwood winning. Chris Bozen's going to be joining us when we come back on Friday night finals. We'll get you some 3A matchups as well before we go to him. This is Friday Night Finals on 104.5 The Zone. Continuing our Friday night finals here on 104.5 The Zone. Got about 24 more minutes. Don't forget that tomorrow morning, not only do you get the Power Hour with Sammy Kincaid at 7, at 8 o'clock, Tate Matthews. No Coach Matthews this week. Why? Because, well, at least no Coach Matthews on Saturday. That's because the Vols pregame begins at 9 a.m. here on 104.5 The Zone. So it's going to be homecoming week in Knoxville, so if you are heading over there, be safe as you make your way towards East Tennessee. Before we get to Chris Bosen, because the game that we had tonight here on 104.5 The Zone in Independence versus Smyrna kind of ties into the Ravenwood game that happened earlier tonight. Let's give you those 3A matchups for the evening. We've given you 6A, 5A, and 4A. We've given you some of the private schools as well as those been coming in. And honestly, I just got to talk about Gatlinburg-Pittman. I mean, it's a school that we have literally not said one time on Friday Night Finals. Reed, hit that music, please, because as much as we have not talked, obviously, about East Tennessee, because it doesn't matter, it is starting to become closer and closer to taking on teams here in Middle Tennessee. Gatlinburg-Pittman in Union County was probably the second game to wrap up tonight out of the 109 that we had happening throughout the state of Tennessee. Gatlinburg-Pittman put up 70 points as they won tonight 70-0 to go 10-1 so far on the season. They're going to be taking on Kingston, who won 35-0 tonight. You also have Alcoa advancing after a 56-6 win to take on Austin East as they won tonight 48-43. Now a little bit more locally, McMinn Central defeated Watertown tonight 34-32. They're going to be playing Giles County, who won tonight 34-0. East Nashville picked up a 40-0 lead over 20. Let me totally back that up. 40-0 win over Cheatham County as they go on to now face Stratford, who beat White House Heritage 58-42. Liberty Creek got a 42-0 win tonight over Sycamore, and they are going to be taking on Fairview, who beat Maplewood 36-30. Dyersburg won tonight 56-20. They're going to be hosting Westview next week, who won 34-17. Covington wins tonight 70-6, and they will be hosting Ripley, who won by a score of 12-8, which I believe Covington had both of those points combined. I think they had like 21 points in maybe the first 4 minutes of the football game. So that is your 4A bracket and your second round matchups throughout 4A. But the game that we had tonight was between Smyrna and Independence. Smyrna winning tonight 26-14. They are going to be advancing to the second round, and now they will be hosting Ravenwood, who won tonight as they defeated Stewart's Creek 28-14. Chris Bosen joins us right now, as he does every single week. And Chris, I'll tell you, had the game pulled up, I was watching it as everything was happening, and I'm not going to lie, when you guys were down 14-7, I was getting kind of nervous.
Hey, I'm not going to lie. I was nervous going into this week. I said on our broadcast, call me a pessimist. I guess I always see the glasses half empty instead of half full. I was worried about Stewart's Creek's athleticism. I was worried about that big 290-pound nose guard in the middle there and the havoc that he was going to be able to cause tonight going into the game.
Well, and so tell us about this, because yes, it was 7-0 for a while. Then it got to 14-7. That was the score that I picked up on. But then at some point in time, you guys just started putting up points in this one. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, so it was 7-0. Stewart's Creek struck on their opening drive. They got a touchdown. Ravenwood came back, got a 15-yard touchdown pass from Femi Babalola to Ben Hubbard to even the thing up at 7-7. On the very first play from scrimmage after the kickoff, though, Stewart's Creek pulled out a flea flicker reverse, and they hit an 80-yard touchdown pass. And that made it 14-7. That was the score at halftime as the Raptors missed a field goal going into the locker room. Halftime yardage, unofficially, Ravenwood had 142, Stewart's Creek had 158. And you hit the nail on the head. The second half, it was all about the line of scrimmage. Second half yards, Ravenwood put up 272. They had 3 touchdown drives of 75 yards each. and they held Stewart's Creek in the second half to 38 yards. They forced 3 consecutive 3-and-outs, and the Redhawks didn't get a first down until midway through the fourth quarter. Lucas Houston intercepted a pass on that final drive for Stewart's Creek when they got their 2 first downs of the half, and that was it. Unofficially, Davis Doland, the sophomore tailback, first half, 17 carries, 98 yards. Second half, 19 carries, 98 yards. I had him unofficially 36 carries, 196 yards. There's a little question on that because there was a holding penalty that drew some of those yards back, but he gained 196 tonight unofficially. And then the freshman tailback, Caden Pace, 91 yards on 12 carries unofficially and a touchdown. That's the younger brother of senior tailback Carter Pace, who did not play in this game. He's been fighting injury through the second half of the year.
Well, and you guys have had about, I will say, 3 or 4 straight games that were extremely emotional. I mean, you and I have talked about, as you know, even though their record doesn't show it, that Franklin team is extremely good. You have a win against Franklin, then you guys have the off week, and then you have the loss against Oakland. You turn around, Battle of the Wood, you lose to Brentwood as well. So between that tough win against Franklin and then those 2 losses, you then go into the playoffs on a 2-game losing streak, getting ready for Stewart's Creek. How did that 2-game losing streak help you guys prepare to go into a playoff matchup like this?
Well, see, what I think it forced them to do, we talked about this on our broadcast tonight on Raptor Athletics Live, they had to find their swagger again because they had lost their confidence, in my opinion, watching them. You're still dealing with 15, 16, 17-year-old kids. They go out last week, they get shut out 17-0. Defense played pretty well, but they weren't able to put any points on the board. You play an Oakland team who you put 18 points on the board against, but they score 42. So I think they were lacking some confidence. What was great to see in this second half was, and keep in mind, here's the other big part of this story. Last week, in the final minute of the game, the starting center, Jasper Quesenberry, goes down with an injury. So now you lose your starting center against a team whose nose guard may be their best player on defense. So what does Coach Hester do? Well, he's able to call on Jacob Thompson, a 300-pound senior who's been his nose guard this year, but for the past 3 years was a starter since he was a freshman on the offensive line. Brought him back in at left guard, moved Riggs Hester from left guard to center. So now the center's 215, 220 pounds, but the left guard is 303. The right guard's 6'6", 300. The left tackle goes 290, 6'6", and the right tackle's about 6'4", 6'5", about 260.
I don't know if you remember a few years ago, I think it was Arkansas that had that offensive line. And it was literally, I think every single player on the offensive line was made up that were 6'5" or above and 300 and something pounds. That's literally what I envisioned just now whenever you were just talking.
Well, it's Kyle Larkin at left tackle. It's Jacob Thompson at left guard. It's Riggs Hester at center. It's Cam Bozen at right guard. And it's Roman Jones at right tackle. And, I mean, they just leaned on them and the running of Davis Doland and Caden Pace. And they just pounded it right into the teeth of the Stewart's Creek defense. Look, Ben Hubbard, he got speed on the edge. He had the 42-yard touchdown catch from Babalola on that little jet sweep in the second half. Then Dolan gets a power run. Caden Pace gets a power run from, inside the 1 and 2 yard line. It was old school looking football. They ran it right at them. And, I think it's going to be a smash mouth game again next week against Smyrna. If I'm correct about this, you tell me if I'm wrong. I think the first time we got this going was after the Smyrna Bulldog game back in September.
Actually, let me double check your history on that. And yes, after you beat Smyrna, after you guys beat Smyrna is when you guys started putting up a lot of points. I mean, you put up 49 against Overton. Then obviously you had the close matchup with Independence at 16-14. You then beat Summit. You then beat Franklin, and then that's before it. So Cane Ridge was your first win of the season, but it was kind of that Smyrna game where that's where that defense really started to show out.
It did, and I mean, you remember that game. I think we turned the ball over 3 or 4 times in the first quarter, maybe in that contest, and it was a rough one. But going back over there to play the Bulldogs is going to be a great match. They haven't lost since that contest back on September 8th. They've put up 7 straight victories.
All right, so help me out then, because again, now look, there is a potential, and I'm not looking ahead of this, but there is a potential that you face 2 teams that you've already faced this season in the course of the next 2 weeks. But you going into the Smyrna one, that is a team that you said that you faced earlier in the year. it has also been like 2 months since you guys played them. Is there a lot that you can take from a game 2 months ago, or is this, a little bit different now going into this matchup?
I mean, I think it's a lot different. I think the one thing about it is that, and when you talked with our players after that Smyrna game, they knew that turning the ball over like that is a recipe for disaster, and it's not their signature. And so I think they'll learn from that. I think that tonight we kept saying this team's got to find a way to get its swagger back. Lucas Houston's a senior cornerback on this team, and he made a huge play in the end zone tonight. There was an open receiver. He dove, knocked it away when Stewart's Creek was trying to stay in it or extend their lead, and then forced them on that incompletion to go for a field goal. Lucas Houston blocked the field goal attempt. That's a senior cornerback. And then he had the interception to seal the game late for the Raptors. And I just think that these guys know that they've got to find that swagger and play with confidence. Again, sophomore quarterback, sophomore and freshman running backs, it's a lot of underclassmen on this team. But those 20 seniors, those class of 2024 guys, Coach Hester loves to say, you're only guaranteed 48 minutes. You got to earn 48 more. They earned 48 more tonight. Next week, they want to earn 48 more because it could set up a big quarterfinal.
Huge quarterfinal matchup. Not saying that we have not started looking at that matchup about a potential matchup, just saying that it's a potential of happening. The problem with that for you and myself is that we're off next week because the Vols basketball team is actually playing, so we won't have Friday night finals. So I don't know if you and I just need to email or talk on the phone or something for this little superstition of ours to continue, but I just want to let you know that ahead of time, just because then you potentially, if you guys beat Smyrna and another school potentially wins, there's a really big rivalry game that could be taking place in the quarterfinals.
Maybe, I mean, you may have to come on and be on our coach podcast or something like that, or get you on our pregame show or something like that.
Let's go ahead. Let's do that. Let's just go ahead and schedule that. You got my people. I know your people. We'll just contact each other. All right.
Hey,
all right.
It's a beautiful November night, and congratulations to all the teams that move on, and congratulations, on all the teams. Great high school football season, and thanks to you guys for bringing it to everybody in Middle Tennessee.
Hey, I absolutely love this every single week, and between B-Hop and Ramon and Will and Lucas, like those guys have been knocking out the play-by-plays, and we just appreciate all you guys calling in, and Chris, you calling in every single week and talking to us about Ravenwood.
You're welcome, man. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too, sir. Chris Bozen, play-by-play man for Ravenwood. When we come back, we're going to wrap it up. We're going to get you those final scores, go through some of those private school brackets, some D2, and let you know where those matchups are going to be taking place as well. Because, yes, we've told you FRA and Knox Webb going to be playing each other, but there's some other matchups that you need to know about. We'll have those for you here as we wrap up Friday night finals on 104.5 The Zone. All right, wrapping up Friday Night Finals here on 104.5 The Zone. In doing so, we haven't talked much about the private schools, getting you those scores. I know that we talked to Tate Matthews earlier, but let's go ahead and get into that because we only have a couple of minutes left. Let's talk a little D2 single A action as Columbia Academy got the first round bye. Jackson Christian won tonight 37-7, and Columbia Academy will be hosting them next week. MTCS also got themselves a bye, and they are going to be taking on FACS as they won 56-42 over Franklin Grace. Trinity Christian got a first round bye, and they're going to be hosting Nashville Christian next week. Friendship Christian defeated Fayette Academy tonight 42-14. They are going to be playing DCA, who beat Mount Juliet Christian 65-14. You looking at D2 AA action right now. Davidson Academy is advancing tonight after they won tonight 49-27. Boyd Buchanan is advancing with that 49-20 win over Good Pasture. They're going to be taking on North Point Christian, who won tonight over JP2 49-24. We talked about CPA. They will be hosting USJ next week after USJ won 34-21. And I have said this should be your My TV 30 Friday Night Rivals game. FRA beat Silverdale tonight 35-6. Knox Webb defeated ECS 34-7. And as we wrap up real quick, try to get D2 AAA in here as Brentwood Academy is going to be taking on McCauley. MBA is going to be facing Innsworth. Christian Brothers got a bye. Baylor got a bye. They'll be facing each other next week. And Knoxville Catholic defeated Father Ryan. They will be playing MUS. Off next week, Vol basketball. Tate Matthews at 8, Sammy Kincaid before that at 7. Vol programming begins at 9 tomorrow. Have a great one.